Hello students, Chemistry Rights team once again welcomes you happily to the subjective numericals discussion part on joint entrance examination chemistry part. Let's see some 25 questions today, very useful 25 questions. The very first question, one of the monomer of nylon 6,6 is an acid. So we know the monomer of an nylon 6,6 that is an acid is adipic acid. And they've asked for how many carboxylic acids present in that monomer. So we know basically adipic acid is a dicarboxylic acid. So it contains the formula as COOH, CH2, and it is going to be present as 4 times and then COOH. So therefore we may say the number of carboxylic group present in that acidic monomer is 2. And then the second one, how many chiral centers are present in a cimetidine? We know the cimetidine is an antihistamine. So in the cimetidine structure, a chiral center. So what is chiral center? Any position or any element attached to 4 different sides are said to be a chiral center. So here for this carbon, we will go by one. For this carbon, there are 3 hydrogens. So same groups 3 are attached. So if 2 same groups are present, definitely that is not a chiral center. So this carbon is not a chiral center. Now taking this carbon, this has a double bond attached to 2 same group which cannot have again a chiral center. So for this nitrogen, one is single bond, the another one is also single bond, and one other side is hydrogen. Then apart from that you also have got a lone pair here. So nitrogen has also got lone pair, so which is attached to 4 different groups. So therefore I can say this is one chiral center. Here for this carbon it is not, because already it is attached to 2. For this nitrogen also 2 same groups because of the double bond. So the double bond centers are specifically not a chiral center. So this is also not a chiral center. This is also not a chiral center. The dot one here is not a chiral center. Here, which is in turn attached to the same hydrogen. So again 2 same groups are present, which is not possible. Here for sulfur, 2 different groups, but still it is attached to 2CH2, which is the same group again, and then apart from that it is also getting a 2 lone pair. Sulfur here 1 lone pair and here 1 lone pair will be present. There are 2 same lone pairs also is present. So therefore this is also not chiral center, and this is also not a chiral center. This carbon is also not a chiral center because that is attached to in turn 2 hydrogens. The case is even true here. And then in this case nitrogen is attached to 1 single bond on the left side, right side 1 single bond, third bond is hydrogen, and the fourth one is again 1 more lone pair. So therefore I'll say this is a second chiral center what it has. And then the third chiral center is, we may say this nitrogen. This is a third chiral center which has got one group as hydrogen, the other group is methyl, the third group is C double bond N CN group, and then fourth group is again a lone pair, so that it has got 4 different groups. For this carbon again double bond is there, 2 groups are same, and nitrogen is also again double bond, C with nitrogen, again with this nitrogen, carbon attached to 2 nitrogen. So all these are not chiral one, so the dot are not a chiral one. Here methyl 3 same groups are there, that is hydrogen, so all these are not a chiral center. So what are the chiral center? Finally we can say is, this is the first one nitrogen, and then this is the second nitrogen, and then this is the third nitrogen. So totally you have got 3 chiral centers. So the number of chiral center present in the antihistamine cimetidine is 3. Next, if the highest oxidation state shown by lanthanide and any actinide are plus X and plus Y, what is the sum of X plus Y is asked for? So in lanthanide we know very well from our theory that cerium exhibits plus 4. Okay, if not, again please try to learn from this session. So lanthanide, the very first element that exhibits highest oxidation state is cerium plus 4, but still the cerium plus 4 can act as a very good oxidizing agent. It reverts back to plus 3 oxidation state. That is because it tends to always achieve its most stable oxidation state of that family. So cerium plus 4, so actinide is neptunium. So you'll find in actinide, neptunium tends to exhibit NP that exhibits up to plus 7 possible oxidation states. So therefore we may say X equal to 4 here and Y equal to 7 here. So they have asked for X plus 1. So that is going to be x plus y equal to 11. So the answer is 11 for this question. Fourth question, how many of these properties are intensive here? So it's a very important one. So what is the intensive property? Intensive, the word in itself tells you that it is independent of the system. It is independent of the system that you take. So the property of the system will be independent of the size of the system. Whatever the size you change, the property is going to be independent. Okay, one simple example I can give you is, let's say you are living in a room, okay, where the temperature is maintained at, let's say, by 30 degrees Celsius by some external means, and let's say I'm dividing that group or that room into two groups now, or I'm just creating a wall in between the two rooms. So still, after creating a partition or a wall, then I can say still the temperature is going to remain in both the cases. Okay, so I've changed the size. Now this is, I can say it as a room 1, now it is, I can say it as room 2. Now almost both has got again same temperature. So this temperature property is not changing with the change in the size of the system, which is the system here is my room. So therefore the temperature is a intensive property. Okay, so this is an intensive property. And refractive index, we know well, it is a velocity of the light in a vacuum to the velocity in a specified medium, and it is also doesn't depend upon the amount of a substance. So refractive index will definitely exhibit for whatever the elements that it has. So it doesn't depend on the amount of the substance. So since it doesn't depend on the amount of the substance, we may categorize that also under intensive property. So this is the second intensive property. And density is also again will not vary, because density we can say it as a mass by volume. Do remember, when you try to take two extensive properties, let's say mass is an extensive property and volume is an extensive property. My volume of the room become V by 2 now. Let's say initial volume of this room is, if you take V, then each room volume has become V by 2, and mass has also become possibly half. So therefore we may say two extensive, mass and volume are extensive property, and two extensive properties when you divide, that becomes intensive. So therefore density is an intensive property. And all thermodynamic factors, do remember, all thermodynamic parameters like internal energy, which is denoted by the symbol U or E, and then enthalpy H, and entropy S, Gibbs free energy G, and then work function A. So Gibbs free energy is also called as Helmholtz function, so G. So all these are possibly, we may say, extensive property, okay, which depends upon the size of the system. So therefore enthalpy and entropy are all is an extensive property. Enthalpy, entropy is an extensive property, and any intensive property can be obtained from extensive property by taking into by 1 mole. For example, heat capacity, as the term itself suggests, it is a capacity of a substance to store heat that in turn depends upon the size. If the system size is larger, I can store maximum heat. So therefore heat capacity is dependent on the size. So therefore heat capacity is extensive property. But what is molar heat capacity is heat capacity per mole. Okay, so heat capacity per mole, in the sense it becomes extensive by extensive property, that becomes intensive. Okay, that becomes intensive property. Gibbs free energy, that depends upon the size, so extensive. pH is also intensive. The pH of the solution is not going to depend upon the size of the system. Let's say you have a glass of water, or you have a test tube. In that test tube you have, let's say, a solution of it, okay, a particular solution of a pH, let's say 5, okay, and I'm pouring this into another test tube, a very small test tube. Let's say this is a 10 ml test tube. Now I'm just pouring it into a 5 ml test tube a little bit. So by changing into this small amount of it, there will not be any change in the pH of the solution. So therefore still my concentration or my pH is going to be a same, which is independent on the size of the system. So therefore pH is also intensive property. So altogether, how many intensive properties? Let's try to consolidate all the intensive properties. Number 1, which we see is pH. Next intensive is molar heat capacity. And then next density is an intensive property. Refractive index is an intensive. Temperature is an intensive. So altogether, how many intensive property has become? There are 5 intensive property. Okay, so the answer for this is 5. Okay, 5 intensive properties are present. Next, how many acidic hydrogens are present in this compound? The compound given is this one. So you are asked to find out the acidic hydrogen. Okay, so where do you find the acidic hydrogens in this compound? I will say the acidic hydrogens is sulfonic acid. You can find sulfonic acid hydrogen, which is more acidic. Then even carboxylic acids, which is this is also more acidic. It can give H plus immediately. And next to it cyclohexanol or OH group. So that is also exhibits. And alkynes are very weakly acidic due to sp hybridization, more S character, so it drags the electron, altogether 4. But this may also be acidic because there are 2 NO2 withdrawing group, so that minus I group makes bit stronger. So therefore, how many acidic hydrogens that are present is, I'll say 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 acidic hydrogens are present in this compound. So altogether, totally, you must select answer as 5. We'll go into the next question. This reaction, they are asking for number of electrons transferred from reductant to oxidant. Okay, we can take any one of this one. Let's say aluminium, I'll take Al2, Al2O3. So since there are 2 aluminium is present in one compound, first we must check for 2 aluminium what are the changes. So here aluminium oxidation state is 0, here aluminium oxidation state is 6 or 2x aluminium. Oxidation state of aluminium is +3, but 2 aluminium oxidation state is +6. Okay, so the difference here is for 1 aluminium, that is 3 electron. There are 8 aluminium, the reaction is given in the balanced one. Sometimes they may not be in a position to give you a balanced equation. In that case, you must do balancing and you should proceed the equations. Okay, so then what we can say on this equation is 3 electron is given, and this is for 1 aluminium. For 8 aluminium, 8 into 3, altogether 24 electrons. Okay, so the answer is 24 electrons is the transfer of or number of electrons transferred from reductant to oxidant. Question number 7. Total number of enol possible for the compound formed during the given reactions, including the stereoisomer, is asked for. So let's try to write the reaction first. CH3MgBr, which is a Grignard reagent, and when that reacts with CH3 CH2 COCl, acyl chloride, and this being a negative, and this will definitely attack this carbonyl carbon, which is a positive one. So in that case it becomes O minus. So the possible way of writing it as CH3 CH2 C, and to this let me write CH3, and then I can write OMgBr and then Cl. So the minus from here transforms here so that the Cl moves out, so that it forms a ketone. So CH3 CH2 C double bond O CH3. Okay, it forms methane, ethane, propane, butane. So butane 2-one it forms. It produces butane 2-one, and this butane 2-one will exhibit possibly, enol formations. This undergoes keto-enol tautomerism because it has got 2 alpha hydrogens. So you can say the 2 alpha hydrogens are here, and then this is alpha. So any one of this can be undergoing enol tautomerism. Let's write the enol tautomerism of it. So CH3 CH2 C double bond O. Let me write this enol tautomerism H plus. So this goes here, so that this goes something like this. so that it undergoes a tautomerism. So CH3, CH2, C, it becomes O minus, and that H plus will be attached here, and then finally here it becomes double bond CH2. And other way what we can write is from this alpha 1 we can write. Let me write once again for your understanding. CH3, CH, I'll write this way, and C double bond O, CH3. So 1,3 system, so this H plus will be out, so here it will become, here it moves like this. So that's CH3, CH, double bond C, that becomes OH, and then CH. Okay, so these are the two possibilities what you will find. And from this we can come to an important conclusion that this exhibits a geometrical isomerism, because carbon-carbon double bond, if you see, that exhibits a cis-trans isomerism, whereas here in carbon-carbon system one carbon is attached to same hydrogen, so therefore no geometrical isomerism in this case. So therefore this is one enol form, one ene plus ol. Ene is alkene plus alcohol, one enol, and here we may say one cis and one trans, so two enol possibilities from this. Okay, two enol structures. So if you want, let me can write this as CH3, I can write this way, and if two CH3 is on the same side and one side a hydrogen and the other side is OH, this is a cis form of enol, and the other one is C, we can write that CH3 in the opposite direction. That will be the trans form of enol, so that it exhibits totally how many enol isomerism is possible is totally 3. Okay, it forms 3. So the answer is 3 for it. 2 of from this one and 1 from one enol form from that another alpha hydrogen. So totally 3. Question number 8. They're asking you to calculate the pH of the acid indicator with concentration 0.1 that changes its color, and make sure you know this concept. The color changes for any indicator happens when only the anionic form and ionized form will be equal. Both the concentration are equal. So the color change always takes place only when the ionized form of the indicator is equal to the unionized form of the indicator. Okay, HIN. So therefore we will, taking a Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, we may say pH equal to pKa plus, or pK in indicator we can use here because we are talking about indicator now. So log of indicator 1 minus by HIN. So pH equal to, since both the concentrations are equal, it becomes log 1. Log 1 is equal to 0. So pK of the indicator, so that is going to be 5, because Ka is given as 10 power minus 5. So pKa is 5. So the answer is for this is 5. Next, sodamide and methyl iodide is given. Final product is also given. X and Y mole is consumed. So how much moles you have to find out. So let's take this compound in this way: CH3, C, Br and Br, and again C with the Br and then Br on both the carbon, and then CH2. Let me take hydrogen this way. When you treat it with the first mole of sodamide, okay, that is going to liberate HBr. So H and then Br, it is an anti-elimination kind. So when this goes here, so that this bromine will become something like this. So that what is the compound formed as CH3C, and we may say 2Br like this, and then C and a Br, and then double bond we may say CH2. Okay, this is what is formed. And again treatment with the second sodamide mole. From here, let's say it may happen one more, so then we may possibly get CH2 double bond C Br, C Br, and then CH2. And let me treat it with one more mole of sodamide. When I treat it with one more mole, so here H and then one Br from here can be removed. So here it becomes CH2 double bond CBr, C triple bond CH. So I can use one more mole of sodamide. Okay, hope you can understand the logic. So from here one hydrogen, from here one bromine. So again there will be CH and triple bond C, single bond C, triple bond CH will be removed. And if you again treat it with a sodamide, and sodamide is a base, and it is, these are weakly acidic, alkynes are weakly acidic, this H plus will be replaced by the sodium. So C minus Na plus and triple bond C, single bond C, triple bond H. And when you treat it with further 1 mole of sodamide, you may say C minus Na plus triple bond C, single bond C, triple bond C, again C minus Na plus. Okay, so from this again, if you treat it with the CH3I, it is going to be a substitution. How it is going to substitute it? Here it's a nucleophilic substitution kind. Okay, so here Na and I, so that is going to be replaced. So therefore what will happen is C minus Na plus triple bond C, C, triple bond C minus CH3. So again one more molecule of that CH3I, if you replace, you are going to get the product what is given. So even this Na and this I will go as NaI. So here there will be a removal of NaI, over here also removal of NaI. So CH3 C, triple bond C, single bond C, triple bond C, and then CH3. So this is how it is produced. So you can understand now the excess number of moles of sodamide consumed. So here first mole, second mole, and then third mole, fourth mole, and fifth, and then sixth. So totally the number of moles of sodamide consumed are 6. And how about methyl iodide that is consumed here is, there are 2. So altogether we may say 6 sodamide, 6 moles of sodamide, and then 2 moles of methyl iodide is merged. So therefore here X, this is 6, and Y, so therefore they are asking for X plus Y. So we may say 6 plus 2, that is going to be 8. Okay, so you should go for a quick calculations. I have given you here a detailed step, but when it is in the examination, you should understand in a half screen job, and all these sodamide calculations you must do in mind calculations. Okay, so let's go for the next question, number 10. The wave number of the first emission line in the Balmer series of hydrogen spectrum is N by 36R. What is the value of the N? Okay, so we know very well the first line in the Balmer series is 3 to 2. So 3 to 2 is the very first line in the Balmer series. So the Balmer formula can be written as, or Rydberg's formula can be written as, wave number equal to 1 by lambda and R Z square, and then 1 by N1 square minus 1 by N2 square. So Z is equals to 1 because it is given hydrogen spectrum. So Z equals to 1, and N1 is going to be 2 and N2 is going to be 3. So R Z is 1, and 1 by 4 minus 1 by 3 square is going to be 9. So when I take an LCM of it, so 36, 5R. Okay, so NR by 36, or if you compare with NR with 36, so N can be compared with what? By comparing with this one, we can say N equal to 5. Okay, totally N equal to 5. Next question number 11. Total number of covalent bonds in C3O2 is asked for, and this is an added information to you. C3O2 is also called as a suboxide. It is a carbon suboxide. Suboxide families are less number of oxygen will be generally present, and another element will be generally larger in amount. So that is what we call it as suboxide, and this is specifically called as carbon suboxide, and this is an anhydride of malonic acid. This may useful to you in any other questions. So it is an anhydride of malonic acid. So we know the malonic acid structure is CH2COOH. It is a dicarboxylic acid again, and try to remove water molecules as far as possible. We can try to remove water molecules from this. So OH and H, one water molecule, and from this one H2 with one O, let me remove 2 water molecules from it. When I remove 2 water molecules from it, finally I'll get C3O2. So therefore it is also shortly called as anhydride of malonic acid. And the structure of malonic acid is C with double bond, double bond, double bond, O, and then double bond O. Okay, so the hybridization and covalent bond must be calculated, and this is how the bond is present. And the total number of covalent bonds in this are 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 covalent bonds are existing. So 4 double bonds, so that 8 covalent bonds are existing. Now how many sp hybridizations are present? Remember, if there is a 2 pi bond, if there is a 1 pi bond, if there is a 0 pi bond, what is the hybridization of the carbon? You know very well, this is sp3, and 1 pi bond in the sense that is, we can call it as sp2. If 2 pi bonds are surrounding any carbon atom, that is sp. Okay, so now let's go for calculating the sp, and here there is 1 pi bond, and here 1 pi bond, and 1 sigma and 1 sigma, so that this carbon in turn has got 2 pi bond, so therefore it is sp. The case is even true for this as well as this. So all the carbon in carbon suboxide is sp hybridization. So totally the number of sp hybridization is 3 sp hybridized atom. Oxygen is not a sp hybridized atom. The oxygen over here is 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One lone pair must be considered as 1 sigma bond. Our steric factor here is 1, 2 and 3. So steric factor, when it becomes 3, so the hybridization of oxygen here is sp2. Same is the case with this oxygen also. Oxygen here is sp2 because the steric number is 3 for oxygen. So therefore we may say sp2 hybridization. So 8 plus 3, so totally 11. So the sum of x plus y, we can say answer as 11. Question number 11 takes answer as 11. And let's go for question number 12. How many chlorine atoms are present in bidienol, which is added in soaps for antiseptic properties? So this itself is a question, why bidienol must be added in soaps that produces antiseptic properties. For this you must have an idea about bidienol structure. Try to focus on the structures in the last 2-3 chapters, like polymers, biomolecules, chemistry in everyday life. These chapters, if you focus on the structures, it will be very easy for you to score more. So you can understand from the structure of bidienol 1, 2 and then 3 and then 4. So totally it is 4 chlorine. It is also can act as an antiseptic and disinfectant. It has got both. So therefore the number of chlorine atoms present in that is 4. So answer is 4 for this. Question number 13. For a first order reaction, if the time is taken for completion of 50% of the reaction is given as T. Second, the time required for the completion of 99% of the reaction is NT. So then what is the relation? Okay, we know from our theory again that it is 10, and we'll try to derive how it is. So T 99.9% has to decompose, and the ratio of that is T 50%. Since it is a first order reaction, let me write the first order integrated rate expression. 2.303 by K log of A by A minus X. So 100 by 100 minus 99.9. And same way I can also say 2.303 by K log of 100 by 100 minus 50. Because 50% is decomposed. So I can cancel these two terms. Then I can write this as log of 1000 and divided by, this can be written as log of 2. 100 by 50, that is going to be log 2, and this can be written as 10 power 3, so 3 log 10, and this can be written as log 2. Log 10 is 1, so 3 by 0.3, roughly 3010 log 2 value is. So we may say that is in turn equals to 10. So T 99.9% by T 50% equals to 3 by 0.3 can be written as 10, so which means 10 times. So T 50%, they are asking you to assume here it as T, so T 99.9% is 10T. So that what is a number of value of N here is N equal to 10. Next, 14th question. How many alkenes possible by the dehydration of this particular alcohol, which is a very important and common one. This type of questions are. Let's take a given compound. When it is undergoing acid catalyzed hydration. When the H plus is added, here there will be an attack, so automatically it results in formation of CH2 positive. This carbocation will be generated, and once this carbocation is generated, we may say it undergoes ring expansion, possibly 1, 2, 3. So there will be a bond between 1 and 3 and bond for breakage between 2 and 3. So that's what we can say on ring expansion. So it can undergo a ring expansion. The 5-membered ring can transforms into 6-membered ring as it is more stable. So let me write a 6-membered ring and try to write the name of the compound. So let's say this is 1. Now 1 is bonded with 3. So 4, 5 and 6. There is no bond between 2 and 3. Bond cleavage has happened. So 2, and by that way the second carbon gets a positive charge on it. So therefore the second carbon will have a positive charge. So from this we can say one of the hydrogen from either first carbon or sixth carbon can produce, and that can have one type of alkene. So we may say this is the cycloalkene. So it is going to be same even if it is produced from sixth carbon here. So this is one alkene, and from here there may be possible to go for hydride shift, because the carbocation also can undergo a hydride shift from the second carbon. So then what will happen is, so this may proceed in this type of carbocation, generating this type of carbocation CH3 with the positive charge here. And when it creates a positive charge, there are various possible combinations. If we take this as alpha and this as alpha, and both are the same, and this is, we can say it as alpha dash. From alpha or alpha dash, you may find one of the hydrogen is coming out, and one hydrogen when it is coming out, then what can we say on that is, we may say this one. If alpha hydrogens are removed, so we may say here, so like this we can say 2 hydrogens are present, 1 hydrogen will be given out, so that this will go here, so that there will be a double bond with CH3. This is one type of alkene, and another type of alkene is from this CH3 it can be removed. So what is another possibilities from this is, I can write this type of alkene here, double bond CH2. So the maximum number of alkenes that it produces is altogether 3. So here it is alkene number 1 and alkene number 2, and here alkene number 3. So the total number of alkenes possible by the dehydration is 3 alkene. Which of this is majorly formed is, number 1 will be most stable, or being a 6-membered ring, and next the 2, because here if you calculate by encircling it, how many alpha hydrogens you got here is 3, and this is also alpha carbon. Now this is also alpha carbon. All the 3 are alpha carbon for the double bond. So 3 and 2 hydrogens here and 2 hydrogens from here. So 5 and 7 alpha hydrogens. So 8 hyperconjugative structures. And circling this carbon-carbon double bond, you get here 2 hydrogens, here 2 hydrogens. My alpha hydrogen is 4. So among these 2, then the stability lies for the second next. Then third. This is the stability of the alkenes. So 8 hyperconjugative structures and then 5 hyperconjugative structures. And question number 15, oxidation number of Mn in the compound of alkaline oxidative fusion of MnO2. You can also refer to potassium permanganate preparation, KMnO4 preparations. This is a very first step, pyrolusite ore we may say. The MnO2 is called as pyrolusite ore. And the pyrolusite ore, when it is treated with an alkaline solution, it gets converted into permanganate, potassium permanganate manganate. So first it gets converted into manganate. So the reaction can be written as MnO2 in the presence of alkali like NaOH or KOH, and it reacts with oxygen, producing, let's say with potassium hydroxide, K2 MnO4 plus 2H2O. So this is what we call it as potassium manganate. So this is what is formed in alkaline medium. So the oxidation state of that is MnO4 minus 2 we can say, or 2 for potassium plus X minus 8 equal to 0. So X equal to 6. So the oxidative fusions, the oxidation number of Mn in the product is finally plus 6. So answer is 6 for this. And 16, how many of these molecules can have a type of hydrogen bonding? Glucose exhibits hydrogen bonding, and even in the cyclic form it exhibits. and HF will be exhibiting in a zigzag manner like this. It exhibits, and each HF is surrounded by 2 hydrogen bonding, and alcohols also exhibits hydrogen bonding. So this way we can write the alcohol's structure. And carboxylic acids, it exists in a dimeric form, RCOOH, and same way we may say RCOH double bond O. It exists in a dimer, and R2NH is also in a similar way, it exhibits hydrogen bonding. So we may say like this, and we can write like this, R2NH. Orthonitrophenol. Okay, so orthonitrophenol is also exhibits in a hydrogen bonding. And then also chloral, CCl3CHO will also exhibits a hydrogen bonding. We may say it is chloral. This is also exhibits an hydrogen bonding. And C6H5Br will not exhibit any hydrogen bonding. So phenol, C6H5OH. So the phenol also exhibits hydrogen bonding. Okay, so then what are the compounds that exhibits hydrogen bonding here? So I can also write the hydrogen bonding here, something like this. Over here hydrogen bonding. So it is going to exist as a dimer. The hydrogen atom is flanked between 2 most electronegative atoms. Here one oxygen, here another oxygen. So hydrogen atom is flanked between 2 most electronegative atoms. Here also the hydrogen is flanked between 2 most electronegative nitrogen atoms. So the ziggy bonds or the black lines here is a hydrogen bonds. And same way here also we may say there is a hydrogen bond. But if you observe in all the cases here, it is an intermolecular between 2 molecules, but in the case of orthonitrophenol and chloral, within the molecule there will be a hydrogen bonding. So these two will exhibit intramolecular hydrogen bonding, and whereas all these will exhibit intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So totally we may say the elements, how many of these molecules is asked for, any can have any type of hydrogen bonding, which means inter as well as intra both must be considered. So glucose is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, totally 7. So of that 7 is the answer. 7 molecules are going to exhibit hydrogen bonding. And adenine is one of the 2 purine bases involved in the nucleotide formation in the nucleic acids. And adenine formula is to be remembered again. So I wish you should go through again all the 4 bases. Again, this is my gentle reminder to you. Please do not take the last chapter of your part 12th very easily. So biomolecules, polymers, chemistry in everyday life, they started giving more importance to structures nowadays. So NTA also seeks the same. So therefore, my suggestion is go for observing all those structures meticulously. We have enough time to go through it. So make sure you thoroughly understand each and every structure and possible questions exposed from that area. So this is the structure of adenine. So the structure of adenine, when you count it, so altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons are present. And then how many hydrogens is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hydrogens are present. And then nitrogen is also 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. So C5, H5, N5. So the value of X is going to be then 5. Most of the answers of what we have seen in this video is of completely 5. So please do not go by a fluke every time that it is a 5. Okay. So that generally it is being an integer, it lies in between 1 to 10 sometimes. Next, question number 18. How many of the following are saline hydrates? We know saline hydrates is also referred as salt-like hydrates. So the salt-like hydrates are produced from group 1 and group 2. So the group 1 over here is sodium. So NaH, and next one is calcium. 1 is an alkaline earth metal, and lithium hydride. These 3 are salt-like hydrates. And CH4 and HF. If you take these 2, and we can say it is an electron precise. Already it has got 8 electron. Fluorine has got a 6 lone pair and then 2 bond pair. So that this is, we call it as an electron precise hydride or hydracids. This is electron precise hydrides or hydracids. And this is 3 is what we call it as saline hydrides. And then the remaining whatever you find is interstitial compounds. Actually the palladium is allowing a trapping, so hydrogen is getting trapped. Same way in chromium metal lattice, hydrogen is getting trapped. Same way titanium lattice, hydrogen is getting trapped. So it is basically an interstitial hydride or interstitial compound. So the hydride over here is an interstitial hydride. So sometimes if they ask for the following hydrides, if they ask interstitial hydrides or electron precise hydrides, you'll have to accordingly give the number. So the answer for this is, how many of the following has got a hydride is 3, and how many of got electron precise? Here it is saline hydride is 3, and the hydracids or electron precise hydride is 2, and interstitial hydrides is 3. So totally we have got 8 compounds. And how many of these molecules get dimerized by 3-centered 4-electron bonds is the question number 19. So beryllium chloride, yeah, it exists as a dimer, okay, and aluminum chloride is also exists as a dimer. So all these are 3-centered 4-electron bond, and apart from that ICl3. And whereas this is existing as a dimer, but it is not having any type of nature. So and BH3 and BeH2, and we may say it is a 3-centered 2-electron bond. Let's see how it is 3-centered 4-electron and 3-centered 2-electron bond. Okay, so let's take a beryllium chloride, and beryllium chloride can be written as BeCl, and one chlorine, let me write like this, and then another beryllium with one chlorine this way, and then another chlorine I can write this way. Okay, so then this 2 chlorines can be involved in the dative bond. Chlorine with its electron, it donates electron. Same way chlorine donates electron to the beryllium, so that it forms a dative kind of bond. Okay, so over here we can say 3-centered 2-electron bond. So beryllium and this chlorine and this beryllium, and same way this is another 3-centered 4-electron bond. What is 3-centered 4-electron bond? So beryllium is 1, chlorine is 2, and beryllium is 3. So 3-centered, and over here 2 electrons are shared, over here 2 electrons are shared. So 3-centered 4 electrons. So 3 atoms are sharing 4 electrons. So that is what is called as 3-centered 4-electron bonds. And then coming up to the next one, aluminum chloride. Aluminum chloride is also existing as a dimer, Al is like this, and a Cl. Let me write one more compound of it this way. This is a aluminum chloride, where it is also existing in a dimer format, something like this. So this chlorine can be donated to this aluminum, and this chlorine can donate electrons, so it forms a bridge like dimer. Okay, so bridge like dimer is what we say. In this also, again, this aluminum, this chlorine, and aluminum. Okay, so this 3 and again this 3 forms 3-centered 4-electron bonds. Again, if you count again electrons, 1, 2, 3, and same way 1, 2, 3. So here 2 electrons, here 2 electrons. So 3 atoms sharing 4 electrons. So how many 3-centered 4-electron bonds are there is 2 present. Here also 2 3-centered 4-electron bonds are present. ICl3 can also be written in the same manner like aluminum chloride. Instead of Al, you can replace by iodine. So BH3 diborane, many of you know the diborane structure. So the diborane is existing like this, BH3. It exists as a dimer, and the hydrogen will be shared something like this, BH2 and H2. Okay, so then again there is only one electron. So here we may say it's only one electron is shared. Here also only one electron. So boron has got only 3 electrons. So these 3 are boron electrons. The red one are the boron electrons. Let me write the hydrogen's electron in green one. So this is hydrogen 1. Okay, same way this hydrogen will give 1. Okay, so let's say this one, if it is a hydrogen, this dot if it is on a hydrogen, and same way maybe one hydrogen here we may say. Okay, so this is for hydrogens. So altogether 3 boron and 6 hydrogen atoms. So here we may say the bond comparatively when compared to previous one, B, H, B, and now you can check 3 center, but it is sharing only 2 electrons. So therefore we may say this has a 3 center 2 electron bond. Okay, and over here hydrogen is also giving an electron, so this is 2 centered 2 electron bond, and this is also called as 2 centered 2 electron bond. The case is also true with beryllium hydride. Instead of boron, you can replace by beryllium. And question number 20, and how many moles of HI consumed in above reaction? And it is a Ziesel's method. Hope you know what is Ziesel's method. It is an HI addition reactions, or addition of HI to the ether. So it consumes definitely 2 moles, because in the center over here, if it is H here, and it is going to be H, and same way here it leaves, and then here H and here I, so that the compound will be consuming 2 moles of HI. So the answer for this is 2 moles of HI. And question number 21, how many compounds give here positive tolerance test? And glucose, since it has got a free aldehyde group in the open chain format, it exhibits positive test. So D-glucose exhibits, and the D-fructose also exhibits. Let's tell you just how it exhibits. And here also free aldehyde group, so it exhibits. And then apart from that, we may say there is no other aldehyde group, so only these 3 can exhibit a positive tolerance test. Let's see how the D-fructose will exhibit. Apart from that, one more, like formic acid, HCOOH, because it has got indirectly like this. So this has got a aldehyde group, HCOOH. So that will also exhibit a positive tolerance test. And glucose, already you know the structure, it is having a free aldehyde group. And coming to the fructose, so what happens to the fructose, how the fructose is exhibiting a structure. Okay, so let's write the fructose structure: CH2OH, C double bond O, C with 4, already it is written 1 2 3 4 5 carbon atoms, and then the 6th one is going to be CH2OH. And let's write the OH of the 3rd one in the left side, and the remaining all on the side. So H, here it is OH, here it is OH. Okay, so this is what we call it as fructose. It undergoes tautomerism. So how it undergoes tautomerism is, we know 1 2 3 system. So the hydrogen from here, I can replace this hydrogen by this way. I'll write 1 hydrogen on the top position. Let's say this hydrogen will be out, this double bond will come like this, so that this moves something like this. Okay, so when it moves like this, so O minus, so what is the structure that you get is tautomerism. It undergoes tautomerism. The tautomerism structure is CH and OH and double bond C, O minus, that abstracts hydrogen, so it becomes something like this. So then 3rd carbon, 4th carbon and 5th carbon, and then 6th carbon is CH2OH, and the 3rd carbon here is OH, H, here are all OH. Now what will further happen is, it further undergoes tautomerism and it becomes a free aldehyde. The hydrogen from here will become removed, so that it gets converted into aldehyde. So therefore it is going to produce 2 types of possibilities from this. So it has got finally free aldehyde group. So we may say this will become CH or C double bond O and H, and this becomes a C, and one side it becomes H and another side it becomes OH, and 3rd carbon will be OH, 4th carbon, 5th carbon, and then 6th carbon, CH2OH. So the structure will be something like this. And there can also be changes with this one also, because the hydrogen, incoming hydrogen can go anywhere. Okay, when this hydrogen is shifting this electron here, and this hydrogen will give this one to this one, this bond will be moving up here, 2 electrons, so that it gets negative charges. That hydrogen can go either on the left side or it can go to the right side. So you may have one more structure like C double bond O with H, and we may say here OH, and here we may say H, and the remaining position stands unaffected. Okay, so I'm not writing over here, so the remaining you just take it as unaffected part. So there will be a changes only with this respective configurations. Okay, we may say one is D-glucose, the other one is D-mannose. So this is D-glucose, and C2 epimer is D-mannose. So it is an epimer. Glucose and mannose are, these two are epimer. Only change in the configuration with respect to only one particular carbon. So therefore it is an epimer. So therefore, by the process called enol tautomerism, there is a dynamic equilibrium that exists between ketose form of fructose with the aldose form. So the ketose and aldose form exist in a dynamic equilibrium, and this dynamic equilibrium is said to be enediol tautomerism. So the process which is helpful for that is enediol tautomerism. Okay, so we may say enediol rearrangement or tautomerism. So because of that, the fructose gets an aldehyde group, and thereby it undergoes a positive tolerance test. Reminding all, I think so you are well aware of it. So the total number of compounds that it undergoes one is 4. So this is the answer finally. And 22, edge length of face centered cubic unit cell of an ionic solid AB is 508 picometer. If the radius of the ion A plus is 110 picometer, what is the radius of B minus ion in picometer is asked for. So we know in body centered cubic atom, the atoms along the face diagonal, it is face centered. In face centered, the atoms along the face diagonal touches each other. The atoms over here and atoms the face center, and here it will be touches. Okay, the two edge atoms will never touch each other. Either it touches this direction or it touches this direction. So only face diagonal is going to get touches. So let's say the face diagonals are generally void can occupy. So let's say if it is of cation at the center A, so 2R of A plus 2R of B minus, and we know by Pythagoras theorem, or by applying a Pythagoras theorem, we may say the face diagonal is equal to root 2A. So solve for it and you will get the radius of B minus finally. Okay, the radius of the B minus finally, what you are going to get is 250 picometer. So how we get this one is R of A plus is given, which is 110 plus 2 into R of B minus is what is asked for, and root 2 into A as given as 508 picometer. So try to substitute and get RB value, and the radius of the B minus you may get as. Okay. Question number 23, and sucralose is N into 100 times more sweet than aspartame, and what is the value of N? Okay, we know aspartame is 100 times sweet than the sugar. Okay, this is definitely going to be 100 times sweet than sugar, and then sucralose is 600 times than the aspartame. So therefore we may say N is 6. So N is 6 because this is 600 times. This is 600 times. So 6 into 100. So therefore 6 times will be the value of N. And question number 24. How many of these acids are monobasic in acids? Okay. Let's take H2S. It is a dibasic acid. It can donate both H plus, and on first H plus it gives HS minus. On second H plus it can convert into S minus 2. So this is a dibasic acid. It can have a 2 replaceable hydrogen. H2O2 can also give 2. So it becomes O2 minus 2, which is forms peroxide ion. So therefore that is also again a dibasic one. H3O2, it should be H3O2 minus, because OH minus are going to be surrounded by the water molecule. So we may say H3O2 minus. Okay, which generally doesn't have a H plus donating tendencies. So therefore we may say it is not a monobasic one. So HCOOH, yes, it can give formate. After giving H plus it converts into formate. So it is a monobasic acid. And H3BO3, a very important, and it is not like 3,1, it is acting as a Lewis acid. It is not a protonic acid. You know it very well, I hope so. Boric acid is not a protonic acid, which is in the sense it is not an arginous acid. It may have a 3H plus or 3 hydrogen in it, but all the 3 hydrogens are not going to be donated. It is not a protonic acid. It is not showing acidic character by donating H plus. Instead it accepts electron pair. Okay, so this is not a protonic acid. Instead it is a Lewis acid. It accepts an electron pair, let's say maybe from OH minus and it accepts, it gets converted into BOH4 minus. So since it accepts one OH minus, let's say if it is treated with water, it can also give H plus as the system. Okay, let's say you are treating with the water, so one H plus will be given. So therefore we may say it is monoprotic acid or monobasic acid. H3PO2, yeah, we know the structure of H3PO2, P double bond O, OH, and 3 hydrogens can be written this way. So 2 of this one, but only one hydrogen can be replaceable. These 2 hydrogens are not replaceable because the electronegativity of phosphorus and hydrogen is same, 2.1, which cannot show any pulling tendencies, whereas oxygen is more electronegative, so there will be a dragging, so tug war of game will happen, so H plus will be released easily. So therefore it is monobasic acid, okay, or monobasic nature. Then HXO4, HXO4 can also be converted into XO4 minus. Okay, so perchlorate kind or perhalate we may say. So perhalate is the structure of XO4 minus. So perhalic acid HXO4, so XO4 minus, and it donates 1 H plus. And sulfonic acid, even that also exhibits 1 H plus. So SO3 minus plus H plus will be the structure of it. So almost, what are the monobasic acids? How many monobasic acids are here? We can finally try to conclude it. So here it is a dibasic. H2S is a dibasic. Number 1, number 2, and then number 3, and number 4 is sulfonic acid. Is there anything else left out? Just cross check. Phenyl sulfonic acid, HXO4, H3PO2, yes, of course, this donates 1. So totally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 compounds are present. So make sure when you are organizing it clearly, maybe you may identify correctly, but when calculating the number you should not make any mistakes. So 5, there are 5 acids which are monobasic in nature. And 25, in melamine, the total number of nitrogen atoms having sp2 hybridization is asked for. Again, you need to remember the structure of melamine. You might be learning from polymers. So melamine polymer or Melmac polymer. So this is the structure of Melmac polymer or melamine structure. So here how many is of sp2, which means when sp2 means steric factor or steric number must be 3. So how to find the steric number? Just check how many groups are present. If you take this nitrogen, there is a 1 lone pair present, there are 2 hydrogens, so and then 1. So find out how many number of sigma bonds are here. So there are 4 sigma bonds. 2 hydrogens, 2 sigma bonds, and this nitrogen is 1 sigma bond, and 1 lone pair must be considered as 1 sigma bonds. So 2 plus 1 plus 1, 4 sigma bonds. When it is 4 sigma bonds, that is sp3 hybridization. Even this nitrogen is also sp3 hybridization, and even this nitrogen is also sp3 hybridization. But coming up to this another nitrogen, here we may say this is 1 sigma bond, here 1 sigma bond, and then there will be 1 lone pair. So then it gets 3. So 3 sigma bond are there. So therefore we may say steric factor as 3 and sp2. And same is the case with here also. It is sp2 and here also sp2. So the total number of nitrogen atoms possessing sp2 hybridization is 3, and the nitrogen atoms with sp3 hybridization is 3. And sometimes they may also ask you what is the total number of nitrogen atoms present in melamine structure, and the total nitrogen in melamine structure is 6. Of that, 3 is of sp2 and 3 is of sp3. So with this I'll complete the session. Go through meticulously again each question, and the ChemSteroids team wishes you for your preparations. Thank you. Visit again. Get electrified with ChemSteroids team.